We're holding now, right after Yom Kippur, between the days of Yom Kippur and SUKKAH. The Ramah, in the end of Hilchos Yom Kippur, the last din, the Ramah ends off Hilchos Yom Kippur by saying, he quotes a Maril, that the Maril says, V'hamadaktekim maschilin miyad b'mitzoy Yom Kippur b'asiyas HaSukkah. The Medaktekim, right away, Matzah Yom Kippur, they build a sukkah. Why? And there's other mitzvahs also you could do. We had over here last night a beautiful Seder of learning. It's also beautiful. Why v'hamadaktekim go right away Matzah Yom Kippur to build the sukkah, or like the Chavetz Chaim explains, at least to start building the sukkah? So he says, Kedei lotzeis mi mitzvah al mitzvah. Leaving Yom Kippur is the mitzvah, like we spoke over here, the mitzvah Midairaisa v'nisa mesnaf shesechem, to be inui, to do inui, not to eat, not to drink, the chamish inuyim. There's also the mitzvah of tshuva, to go from the mitzvah of Yom Kippur into the mitzvah of sukkah. The mitzvah to build a sukkah. And in Siman Tov Reish Chaf Hey, that's the first siman in Hilchas sukkahs. Over there, the Ramah says the same thing also. U'mitzvah l'sakin hasukkah b'yad la'ach Yom Kippurim. For another reason. The mitzvah b'ol yad yachbetzenu. Don't wait till Erev Sukkot to build your sukkah. Build it right away, right after Yom Kippur. So it's interesting, these two Ramahs. There's a Ramah in Hilchas Yom Kippur at the end, and then there's a Ramah in Hilchas Sukkah. Chavetz Chaim says the first Ramah speaking about Matzah Yom Kippur to start, and then the next day, today, to build the rest of the sukkah. First of all, you should go mitzvah le-mitzvah, v'oid, because mitzvah haba l'yadei al yachbetzenu, which is very interesting, which comes out that building the sukkah is a mitzvah. Building the sukkah is a mitzvah. We know there's a mitzvah to shake lulav, to sit in the sukkah. Be'ez Hashem, this coming Monday night, a mitzvah min ha-Torah, a chiyuv to sit in the sukkah. But there's a mitzvah to build the sukkah. There's no mitzvah to make tzitzis, to make the tefillin. There's a mitzvah to wear the tefillin. But in Tasant over here, we're building the sukkah. It's achana. What's the mitzvah? It means the achana. So the emphasis on this of making the sukkah, that it's a mitzvah, it's likely even a mafurish Mishnah, that is a mitzvah to build a sukkah. The Mishnah in Shavuot says, Nishba levatal es ha-mitzvah. Somebody makes a shvuah to be mevatal the mitzvah, and the Mishnah gives an example. What type of mitzvah? Like the Mishnah, shaloi lasoi sukkah v'shaloi litoi lulav. By lulav he says not to shake the lulav, but then when he speaks about sukkah, zok the Mishnah, shaloi lasoi sukkah. By the sukkah, the Mishnah says not to make the sukkah. You make a shvuah not to make a sukkah. So there, you see in the Mishnah, we just started that it seems from the Ramah, the two Ramahs, that there's a mitzvah to make a sukkah. Right? That's where you start Matzah Yom Kippur, and the Ramah and Hilchas Sukkah also. It's a mitzvah. So the going a bit the Makoiris, that is a mitzvah. The Mishnah says, Pashas, it's a Mafurish Mishnah, that is a mitzvah to build a sukkah. Because when the Mishnah says he made a shvuah, shaloi nishba levata l'asa mitzvah. What's the example? Not to build a sukkah. Afterwards, when he speaks about other mitzvahs, not to shake the lulav, not to put on tefillin, but by sukkah, he says I make a shvuah not to build a sukkah. The Rashash Taka asks, why doesn't the Mishnah say sitting in the sukkah? Good, that's the Rashash. But Al Kapanim, the Mishnah says clearly that not building the sukkah is a mitzvah. You nishpa levatal as a mitzvah. You made a shvuah to refrain from doing a mitzvah. What is the mitzvah? The mitzvah is building the sukkah. Building the sukkah. And that's why the Ramah says, last night, today, right away, go to start building the sukkah, to get involved with the mitzvah of building the sukkah. The Gemara in Makkah says that a person doesn't go to Golus if he killed B'shoigik while he was oisek in a mitzvah. Means he was chaytev eitzim, he was what's the case? The classical case of killing b'shoigig. Somebody was with an axe. He was cutting wood, knocking down a tree, and then the metal flew and killed a person. He has to go to Golus. But if he's cutting wood l'mitzvah, then he doesn't go to Golus. So the Gemara says, Chaytev eitzim l'sukkah, he's cutting down a tree for a sukkah, that's not called l'mitzvah. And Memela, a person that was cutting down a tree, wood for the sukkah.
Doesn't matter which part. If he's cutting the branches, let's say it's a, I don't know how you would have that case.
L'chayra, there's no chilek. Very good. You want to know if he's cutting what piece of wood. Is he cutting the wood for the wall or cutting for the schach? But it's not called l'mitzvah. So Rashi says, why is it not l'mitzvah? Dr. Rashi, because the mitzvah is building the sukkah, not preparing the wood for the sukkah. L'chayr, the answer, that would be even for what you say about schach also. What is the mitzvah? The mitzvah is building the sukkah, not getting wood to be able to build the sukkah. But al kaponim, how Rashi understands the Gemara, that cutting the wood down is not a mitzvah. But once you cut the wood down and building the sukkah is a mitzvah. So we have l'chayra, a mafurish Mishnah, the Gemara al kaponim, how Rashi understands the Gemara, that is a mitzvah to build a sukkah. It's a mitzvah. What'd say?
Why isn't that part of building? I'm cutting down the street so I can build my sukkah.
That's a chana. It's really be'etzem if the mitzvah is to wear tefillin. So when you're making the tefillin, it's to be able to wear the tefillin. So if the mitzvah is to build a sukkah, the only way you can build a sukkah is if you have boards and you have schach. If not, you can't build it. That would be a chana. Even if you learn the mitzvah is building the sukkah. Building the sukkah means putting the boards. Driving to the sukkah center to buy the boards, you need to be able to have boards to build a sukkah, but it's a chana for the mitzvah. It makes the mitzvah, you should be able to makayim the mitzvah, but the etzem mitzvah is building. The Rambam in Hilchas Brachas also is clear that the mitzvah by sukkah is also to build a sukkah. It's a mitzvah. The Rambam says like this. The Rambam says in Hilchas Brachas, you make a bracha before you do a mitzvah. Yeah. But the Rambam says if you do a mitzvah, that the mitzvah has another mitzvah afterwards, then you don't make a bracha on the first mitzvah. That's the Rambam says a kollel in Hilchas Brachas. Yeah. And the Rambam gives examples. So the Rambam says like this: Kol mitzvah shas says the gemar. You're shaking the lulav. That's the mitzvah. You make a bracha before. However, zok the Rambam, if the mitzvah, there's another mitzvah after the first mitzvah, then you don't make a bracha on the first mitzvah. Keitzad ha'oiseh sukkah. And other examples, einoi mevorach b'shas asiyah asher kedishanu. Though the Rambam, we're going to soon see these are chuvas Rambam. The Rambam is liyeser and it could be you have to be miyashiv that the Rambam doesn't mean exactly at the first part. It's really a mitzvah. So this Maramaka maybe is a little less mafurish that he's a mitzvah. Tosfos in Moed Katan, Tosfos says, "Kam b'mitzvah sheyev shalasas al yidei acher." I'm not going into the Gemara. Zok Tosfos, asiyas mitzvah adif, because even Sharei Mafsikin, I'm sure, he says, Lasoi Sukkah. Meaning to say, is Tosfos and Moed Katan is understanding to make the Sukkah is a mitzvah. What's Takar Pshat? What's Takar Pshat? That by Sukkah, there's a mitzvah to build a Sukkah. By Tefillin, nobody says to make the Tefillin as a mitzvah. To make tzitzis is a mitzvah. To make the shofar, it's hachana, it's being involved, but it's not there's no mitzvah to make tefillin. There's no mitzvah. There's no mitzvah to make matzah also. No mitzvah to make matzah. Very good. I like how you brought it up. I think I have it written over it. There's no mitzvah to make matzah also. There's no mitzvah. Avada, there's an Indian to be involved to make sure that it's done properly. But in the mitzvahs, there's no mitzvah to make matzah. So what's the pshat? Why by sukkah is there yes a mitzvah to make the sukkah? Zok the Nitziv. The Nitziv in Heimek Shaila, a very big arichas, mamash a big arichas. I'm just going to take out one part, and he says like this. He says the Torah K'dosha and Parshas Re'ei. When speaking about Sukkos, Zok the Torah, Chag HaSukkos Tasa L'cha. Tasa L'cha. Chag HaSukkos Tasa L'cha Shivas Yamim. Zok the Netziv, Chag HaSukkos, the Yom Tov of Sukkos, of making a Sukkah, Tasa L'cha. You should do it. What should you do? The Hainu, to build a Sukkah. So he says, it's come out like the Torah says, he's a special mitzvah to build a Sukkah. At the Kachti Yishalmi says they even make a bracha on building the Sukkah. L'maisa we don't pass like that. But Al Kaponim, he's a mitzvah in building the Sukkah. Now, the Etzem, there could be a full shiur on this, building the Sukkah, not if it's a mitzvah, not a mitzvah. We're going to speak a bit more about it. But that's not the focus of today's shiur. Obviously, we said these Marmakaimis because we started off the Ramah, Sai Lagabi last night, this morning, Sai to go mitzvah, la mitzvah, from the mitzvah of Yom Kippur to mitzvah of building the Sukkah, and also mitzvah abol yotcha al tachmitzena, which means it's a mitzvah, you should build a Sukkah. But what we said up until now, that it's a mitzvah, the Tshuvas Chassam Sofer in Yeredeya, the Chassam Sofer says that there's no mitzvah. There's no mitzvah to build a Sukkah. There's no mitzvah. The Pasuk, Chag HaSukkos, Chassam Sofer says that the Pasuk Chag HaSukkos, what the Netziv says is that the Torah is saying that there's a mitzvah. Zok the Chassam Sofer, Chag HaSukkos is not that to build a Sukkah. Chag HaSukkos is talking about the Yom Tov. Chag HaSukkos Tasa L'cha, you should celebrate the Yom Tov of Sukkos.
What does he do with all of the Rishon?
Oh, very good, very good. Lamaisa, in Shuvas Divrei Yatzav, he goes through all the rayas. Like I mentioned, if the shiur this morning would be, if the title would be, if there's a mitzvah to build a sukkah or not, so then Taka, this would be, would go more into it. But we're going to get really what the title was, is when is the best time to build a sukkah. Sorry that the text didn't go out. But that's the focus. When is the best time? But Al Kaponim, the Chassam Sofer says, there's no mitzvah. And Taka, the Divrei Yatzav goes through to be Miyashiv, the rayas that we spoke. What I do want to share with the Olam is that the Rambam in Tshuvas says mafurish that there's no mitzvah to build. Even though we said the Rambam in Yad Pashta says there is a mitzvah, but the Rambam in the Tshuvas, the Rambam says, Ukemoi shahasukkah ha-mitzvah hi ha-yeshiva v'lo asiyah. The mitzvah is to sit in the sukkah, not to build a sukkah. The lulav, it's the netila, that we know. The mitzvah is not to build the lulav, to put it together, it's to taking the lulav. And he goes through by shofar to listen. Okay, but that we said already. Could be you don't make lases. The Rambam and the Klal, that it's there's another chalik of there's another mitzvah afterwards. But the Rambam also, it's a little bit of a different lashon. But the Rambam, in a different tshuva, the Rambam says, "Kishem she yeshivas asukah hi ha-mitzvah v'lo yasiyasa." Could be it's the same tshuva, but it's two different. This is Kuf Lamed Hey, this is Nun Aleph. But Al Kaponim, by both the Rambam says that the mitzvah is not building the sukkah. The Ramosha in a tshuva, Lagabi Sukkah Skanvach, and ladies putting on the schach. So the Rambam is Dr. Ramosha. I'm just taking out two lines, but it's a whole tshuva, and like we spoke, it's a big arichas if it's a mitzvah. But Dr. Ramosha, v'hu betam she'ein b'maisa hasichoch, putting the schach on inyan asiyas mitzvah, even the schach, let alone building the sukkah, the walls, even the schach, there's no mitzvah. Nervos el yitzira sukkah, that you have a sukkah sheyachal l'kayim b'ha mitzvah, to sit in the sukkah.
So a lady could do it?
Al Kaponim, I in the tshuva, that's what he speaks in the tshuva, that's what he speaks about it. That's the handlerai. There's a sugya of sukkah's ganvach of a goy could put on schach, needs to put on l'shem tzeil, but Al Kaponim, they're building the sukkah, even putting on the schach is not a mitzvah. So we have over here a shaila, a machloikis, l'chayra from the Ramah that says to build a sukkah b'mitzvah, a mitzvah, Pashas is going clearly that there is a mitzvah. Right? That's why last night you should go from the mitzvah Yom Kippur to building the sukkah. Don't al tachmitzena. Zok the Avnei Nezer, a chiddush that's negeya for this year. If building the sukkah is a mitzvah, Zok the Avnei Nezer, you should and you need to build a sukkah today before Shabbos. Why? Because if not, there's a din of Mavir Ala Mitzvahs. I don't remember if we spoke about it in the past. Mavir Ala Mitzvahs. Meaning to say is, if the time is now to do the mitzvah, just like you're not supposed to pass one mitzvah to go to another mitzvah, you're passing over the mitzvah of building the sukkah. How are you passing over the mitzvah? Right now, today we have a mitzvah to build a sukkah. Comes tomorrow, Shabbos Kodesh, you can't build a sukkah. So if you're going to delay building the sukkah till after this Shabbos Kodesh Parshas Hazinu, you're being maver ala mitzvahs. We just said a Mishnah, maybe a Gemara, Rishonim, that is a mitzvah to build a sukkah. If you don't build your sukkah today, when it comes Shabbos, you're kind of not just delaying it. If there's no Shabbos, okay, so then, like what the Ramah says, build it right away because there's reason. But even if you don't build it the first day, you build it 2 days, even if you wait till Erev Sukkos, okay, so you weren't, it's not zrizin. Person is supposed to do the bris in the morning. Zrizin makdimin. You're not supposed to delay it. But lamaisa, if you do it in the afternoon, it's a chasar and it's zrizin, it's a chasar and it's zrizin. But here, it's not just a chasar and it's zrizin. If you're going to do it after Shabbos, Sunday or Monday, you run into mavir ala mitzvahs. Obviously, this is all if you learn that building the sukkah is a mitzvah. If, like what we said from the Chassam Sofer, and which is already in the Rambam and the Tshuvas, that there's no mitzvah, so then it doesn't pass to say mavir ala mitzvahs, right? Like Rav Moshe says, there's no mitzvah in building the sukkah, putting the schach. It's only to have a sukkah to mekayim the mitzvah. Okay, so then there's no mavir ala mitzvahs. Mavir ala mitzvahs is you have a mitzvah to do, and then you not just push it off, but it's in a way that you now no longer have the mitzvah, which means Shabbos Kodesh, then you pushed away the mitzvah. But if there's no mitzvah to build, it's not mavir ala mitzvahs. Lamaisa, this chiddush of the Avnei Nezer is also a big discussion. The Chelkas Yoyev has many shilas on the Avnei Nezer, and the Avnei Nezer's b'yashiv. You can be ma'ayin, ten l'chacham v'yosev lekach ti ma'ayin more. The Minchas Alaza, the Minkach Rebbe, brings this Avnei Nezer, also has kashas, and he's choylek. He holds not like that. It's interesting. He ends off and he says he doesn't understand why the Avnei Nezer said this chiddush for the Shabbos Shuvah Drasha. I hear it's important to build a sukkah before Shabbos, not after Shabbos, but is Klal Yisrael, we're holding on this madrega that this is what we have to speak about before Yom Kippur of mavir ala mitzvahs. Person has to be Shabbos Shuvah, you have to speak about. A person has to do tshuva on Averis. But the Minchas Alaza, he's not, he's choylek on the Avnei Nezer. Me'idach, the Minchas Yitzchak brings the Minchas Alaza and he says, yeah, Yisrael Kedoshim, this is the level that we have to see to be zar, even on mavir ala mitzvahs. And he says yes to be choishish with the Avnei Nezer. They bring B'Shem Reb Shlomo Zalman. It's not 100% clear, but they bring B'Shem Reb Shlomo Zalman that you don't have to be choishish to Avnei Nezer. But even if you didn't build a sukkah yet and it's not going to work today, it's fine. We'll soon see that even the Avnei Nezer says that it's fine. But first, in the Iker Chiddush of the Avnei Nezer, it's a machloikis. It's a machloikis. But you should know that there's such a shita, the shita's Avnei Nezer, that you should build the sukkah today rather than after Shabbos. Another nekuda, The Chafetz Chaim says right here in Hilchas Sukkah, the beginning of Tafresh Chaf Hei, he says that if you're building the Sukkah today, you're not allowed to build it after Chatzos. You're not allowed to build it after Chatzos. Right here, Tafresh Chaf Hei, Sivkat and Beis, B'Shem the Prima Gadim. This is up here Hilchas Shabbos Tegedin. That's Tamazay after Chatzos. Not to do. Correct. And not to do such malacha. Ayidei go you could. These are shita that the emes is that you have more time, you have till Mincha Ktana, the Bekur Yaakov. But Al Kapanim, if you want to be choishish for the Avnei Nezer to build it today, to build it this morning, or Al Kapanim till Mincha Ktana, which is 3-4 o'clock be'erach. So which means we have a pretty tight window. Last night, not everybody has koich at least to put up the whole sukkah. And then today till chatzos, till the afternoon, early afternoon. Be'etzem laha'ara, if you learn building the sukkah as a mitzvah, b'niyah shal mitzvah is mutter. So it's interessant. Why does the Chafetz Chaim say you can't build after chatzos? If it's a mitzvah you could do after chatzos. Ha'ara. Be'etzem, if you don't want to have to fit it exactly into this window, so be'etzem you could build it before Yom Kippur. And I think it's fair to say a big chelik of Klal Yisrael already put up their sukkah before Yom Kippur, maybe before Rosh Hashanah. With a year like this year, Shabbos Yom Tov, a lot of people put it up already early. Now, Lamaisa, these are different Avnei Nezer. The Avnei Nezer says, up here, Medrash and a Zohar, that the proper time to build a sukkah is actually, yes, after Yom Kippur. There's a Medrash and a Zohar. After that Klal Yisrael has Mechilas Avoynes, then to go and build a sukkah. So what we have is a Shitas Avnei Nezer, that there's a Shabbos in between Yom Kippur and Sukkos, Zok to Avnei Nezer to build a sukkah before Shabbos. And as we saw, better after Yom Kippur. I wonder maybe if you could put the walls and just a schach after, but better to build a sukkah after Yom Kippur, but before Shabbos. However, I want to conclude, Zok to Avnei Nezer. Yom Kippur could fall out different days of the week, but for Shabbos to be in between Yom Kippur and Sukkos, it's possible two ways. What are the two ways? If Yom Kippur is Shabbos and there's no Shabbos, Yom Kippur can fall out on a Tuesday, but it could fall out Wednesday or Thursday. This year was Thursday, but it could fall out Wednesday. Zokta Avnei Nezer, Moiridik, and Memela this year, this whole shmooze may not be applicable. Zokta Avnei Nezer, when Yom Kippur is Thursday, a year like this year, which is again because Erev Pesach Shechalias B'Shabbos, we're still going off that calendar. We spoke already many different interessante halachas. I think that this is the last of the whole series of Erev Pesach Shechalias B'Shabbos, which is not going to happen for 20 years. We should be zoich. It should happen because if Mashiach comes, Mekadosh Al Pi Ariyah. When Mashiach comes, we're getting Mekadosh Al Pi Ariyah. We're not going to wait for 20 years for the next Erev Pesach Shechalias B'Shabbos. Erev Pesach Shechalias B'Shabbos and Memel Yom Kippur is on a Thursday. Zokta Avnei Nezer. These only Thursday night, Friday, you have to prepare for Shabbos. Oisik b'mitzvah pata ben mitzvah. Last night, let us not forget that it's Thursday night and today's Friday. We have to prepare for Shabbos. And even more than a regular week. Lamaisa, some people already cook Thursday and they do things Thursday. But over here, Thursday was the Yom Kippur. So we even have a tighter window to prepare for Shabbos. Zokta Avnei Nezer. A year like this year, you don't have to build a sukkah, Erev, Shabbos, in between Yom Kippur and Shabbos, because you're Oisik b'mitzvah, Pater ben mitzvah. When Yom Kippur is Wednesday, so then you have Thursday to build a sukkah, and you have also Friday to prepare for Shabbos. Then you have to do it before Shabbos. A year like this year that is partial, one day between Shabbos, between Yom Kippur and Shabbos, then you don't have to. You don't have to. It's not called Mavir Nala Mitzvahs. What's Mavir Nala Mitzvahs? You have a mitzvah now to build a sukkah. True. But we also have the mitzvah of Achana l'Shabbos. So Mamelu, the mitzvah of Achana l'Shabbos is overrides the mitzvah of building in the sukkah, and you'll build the sukkah after Shabbos. We should be zoichetake to do the proper achanis, building the sukkah, the dalad minim. Have a wonderful Shabbos.